with at our back, so Richard Force will carry, hopefully.
It's rather sacramental, isn't it? Thanks, Pip.
I'll come to the other end. Start at this
We're
end.
just bringing around a couple of mementos, one being a little card and the other one being a little rock, both of which you may keep to place your memories of Mum upon. And so I'm Richard, by the way. I'm Zena's eldest son, and my sister Pippa is here, and a number of other family members, and I can see a number of friends as well. So welcome to Mum's West Terrace resting place. I was going to say plot, but plot fits in well with what I wanted to say next. Because I just wanted to remark at the start, before Rosie has opportunity to say a few words, that a person's life is somewhat like a book, in the sense whether it's a page turner or a thriller or a biography. If you imagine it as being something like a book, then each of us have our own place in that. Some people have been there since page 1, as in the case of my Auntie Anne, and other people maybe for a chapter or perhaps a special cameo and or maybe just a thematic appearance right the way through. And in the sense of our remembrance of Zena being like a book, and her life being like a book and us being pages in it, then we all have our own particular viewpoint. And a viewpoint is just that, it's a view from a point. And so we have our own place in that, and even some bit part characters as well. But for this part of it, thank you so much for being with us, and welcome to all of you today. And whether you're coming on to my sister Penny's place, 315 McGill Road afterwards, or whether you're going on to the other parts of your day, thank you so much for being here and welcome. And we've turned on a fantastic Adelaide day for us O'Bartians. My wife tells me I need to wear the coat. I'd rather be in shirt sleeves. It's quite warm weather for us, and yeah, we're here quite a bit. And I wanted to also thank Uncle John for being here. John is just not very long had a knee replacement, and it's fabulous that he's here alongside Rosie. And I also wanted to thank Mark, who is a retainer of our family, Taylor and Forgy Funerals, and I think you've done pretty well all of our family funerals in the last while. And Mark was my uncle many years ago, and I guess at this point, for my own part, I'm going to read a little poem a little bit later after Rosie's spoken by way of process. Mark's going to put Mum's urn in, and then we're going to invite you to place a floral tribute just before we leave. So, which is rosemary, a little piece of rosemary, quite fitting. We're going to place a little bit of rosemary in, but also we're going to spend a little time just after Rosie's spoken, just in silence and remembering perhaps the page that we may have been, or the chapter that we may have been, or the appearance or thread that we may have been in Mum's particular book. And we'll do that in silence, and just allow you to think about what you're holding in your hand as far as the card goes. Mum was a great lover of bridge, and she was one of those card counter people that could get a pack and turn the cards over one at a time and then tell you what the last card was. So one of those annoying people. I remember many family holidays from being a child where nobody wanted to play and the whole table would gang up on Mum because it was really the only way to beat her. I thought about putting the Queen of Spades, because we like to play that game Rickety Kate or Black Annie, but I thought that was inappropriate because she was to us the Queen of Hearts, so we've gone with that. So yeah, without any further ado, yes,
I think it'd be nice to thank to those who've come from Perth. So
oh yes, people who have travelled from further afield. Who's here from Perth?
Steph.
Oh yes, of course.
And Helen.
Yes, Steph and Helen are over.
And Karen from Townsville.
Because you've just come from North Adelaide, obviously thinking of that.
Karen from Townsville.
Yeah. Cassie's come from Townsville.
And Sarah
Pip's
from the
come
northern
from Sydney.
From Darwin.
Yeah, Sarah's come from Groot Island, I think.
No,
Difficult
Catherine.
route to be here.
Catherine.
To be here, and anyone else who's come from further afield, thank you so much for being here.
Paul from Sydney.
Paul from Sydney, along with Pip. And of course Rosalie and I, we're normal ring-ins these days, now that we spend a bit more time over here, and more recently in the last little while while Mum's been. You're in Tasmania, yes, in Hobart in Tasmania. Yeah. So I'm now going to invite Rosie, and I'm sure it will be in her own particular idiom, as those who know Rosie well, to say a few words with Mum and their life together, and whatever takes her fancy to say. Thank you, Rosie.
Oh, thank you, Richard. I'm not going to say very much, but I do want to read you a poem in a minute. And thank you very much for all coming. It means a lot. In 1944, Gladys was evacuated from London, carrying Zena inside her, and they were evacuated down to Shepton Manor in Somerset, where she delivered her baby in the house of an aristocratic lady. I'm not sure which was the more hazardous of the two, giving birth to an aristocratic lady's mansion, or staying in London being attacked by Adolf Hitler. Whichever way it goes, she was born a long way away. She was born a long way away. And so, get a control. And so I want to read you this poem, which is for people like this, by River Brook. If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be in that rich field, rich earth, a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by the sons of home. And think, this heart, all evil shed away, a pulse in the eternal mind, no less, gives somewhere back forth by England given, her sights and sounds, dreams happy as her day, and laughter learnt of friends and gentleness, in hearts at peace under an English heaven. Yes. She shares this sentiment with people like Oscar Wilde and Abraham Heloise, all people with a history of tragedy in their lives, ending up in a park far removed from where they were born and bred. And Zena, not so much tragedy in her life, but she has been removed from her origins. And today we should say goodbye to Zena. So old and the baby. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Rosie. I'd just like to invite you, in whichever stance you're most comfortable with this to do, just to close your eyes or just look into the distance, and with the two little mementos you have in your hand, the little card with Mum's image on it, and the little stone with the Z on it, which Sophia did a fabulous job with fixing. Sophia and Penny prepared those. To just have your own thought about Zena and the part that she played in your life, and the chapter, or as I said, a cameo performance, or maybe perhaps a number of amazing times that you've had with Mum, and we'll just have a couple of minutes of silence just to actually consider that. Has everybody got one now? And we'll have our worthwhile tribute to put in afterwards. So yeah, let's just pause and reflect upon Zena. Take some time out of our increasingly busy life these days just to spend some time thinking about Zena Wendy Martin. Beloved of Rosie and so many of you here. Big sister Anne, other members of the family and friends, just
Sister Karen.
some time. Sister Cassie's here too.
I'm going to piss on the panel.
Yeah. To think about Zena, both in England and here, and in our photo montage later we're going to be looking at some of the many places that she lived and the people that she spent time with. But I just want to thank all of you for coming together today just to reflect upon her life and your part in it as well. Thank you all very much for being here. Mum wasn't really into showy things like that, but this is fantastic that we're able to be here today and to consider her and to take that part away in the little stone with the Zena in the very Art Deco style that Mum so favoured in her decorative tastes and so forth, and truly just to honour
The queen of the palace are wrapping.
I would suggest that as you come past, Richard's going to stand over here. If you come past through here, you can face the rosemary and then move out that path of it. Rather than go back and forwards over each other. So they'll be back nice and smooth. So
After the brother.
Try not to put in a hole.
well, you'll be excused, John, because there's nothing about you walking a picture.
Oh, well, look, I can put that. How are you, Mark? I haven't seen you in a while.
Okay.
Ah, for the golf, of course. Yep. Very worthy cause.
Continue on then.
You're taking it home.
Oh, we're taking it.
Yeah, taking stone home. That's all right.
Because it's very
Have
good.
you-
to put a
We'll
stone
see you later.
and you put you.
I'll tell you more later.
Thanks very much, everyone. If you can see me and you can see the TV for the montage, Pippa's Pippa. Now I'm Richard, Zena's eldest son. It's my sister Pip here, and Penny, our other sister, is hosting you today. So Pen is over the back there. First of all, for those who went at West Terrace, I just want to welcome everybody and thank you very much for coming today. Mum would be thrilled to see so many of her family and friends gathered in one place. And I'll really briefly just say that what I said there was that if a person's life is like a book, all of us have chapters that have run, inserts that have run, maybe cameo appearances that have run right from the beginning right through to the end. And we all have our viewpoint of Zena's life, and we're going to hear from a few people who speak a little bit to that in just a minute, and we're going to have some pictures also for our montage. But just to say that a viewpoint is just that, it's a view from a point, so we can have differences in how we see things and what our particular facet of our relationship with Zena was, and we're hoping to kind of bring an all-round circumspect picture to that today. So I first of all am bringing apologies from Jo, who was Mum's next down sister, and she's sent along, and she has COVID at the moment, so wasn't able to be here, but some of her family are here, which is lovely to see them. And so I'm just going to read what she sent me. Z-E-N-A. I could say Z-E-N-A before I knew what it meant to spell, or that it spelt Zena. She was, I guess, the one who had to look after the smaller sister in my early years, and I loved her dearly. She was always there for me. As I've looked through photos of our lives together over the last week, Zena's vitality and joie de vivre come shining through. Zena was good at everything. I'm sure you will all know what I mean. She played a mean game of netball and bridge, cooked cake like a professional, Florentines and wilderness maple and wildy cake, that we all remember. and could sew anything that anybody wanted. Do you remember the elephant dress?
Yes.
She was in David Jones when she saw a very expensive elephant dress and copied it to perfection. My children will always remember the excitement when the clothes hand sewn by Zena, and which were too small for Penny and Pip, arrived. It was like Christmas as they tried them on. There was no way I could sew anything as well as those made by Auntie Z. Children flocked to Zena like bees to honey, and so many of the photos I found recently are of Zena surrounded by children. She was a good friend to many, and generations of our family have had fond memories. There have always been 4 of us, the sisterhood, and I can't quite get my head around that we're no longer complete. I do want to thank Anne for the care with which she looked after Z in the last few years. She was lucky you were nearby to represent us, the sisterhood. Goodbye, Zena. I'll love you always. Other ones here. Used to be in the old days. You remember they had telegrams? Show your age if you say yes to that one. And I've got another one from my son Jordan. Jordan and his wife and 2 kids are COVID refugees. They arrived from China in January of the pandemic and they're still here. He hasn't been able to get a work visa to go back to China again. So we, Rosalie and I, in Hobart have had the most fantastic, I know the pandemic's been difficult for some, but fabulous for us. We've had our grandkids with us. Right, so I'm going to read you something from Jordan. Right, firstly, our apologies to all there in the flesh today. We would have loved to be with you all in person to share these happy memories and see your smiling faces. The tyranny of distance meant that I didn't know Grandma Zena all that well as a child, and a big part of the way I interacted with her at that age was via childhood's exaggerated imaginings, fed with only tidbits of information. The letters she sent me were probably the main scaffolds for my fantastic construction of her. This was the very early 90s, of course, and she was the mysterious author of those printed, can you imagine, printed letters that would arrive adorned with all sorts of fantastic clip art. I kept those letters on top of the wardrobe, which was positioned just under my bunk bed, and on nights when I couldn't fall asleep straight away, I would often turn my nightlight on and reread the letters, my imagination filling in the details surrounding this sophisticated and stylish grandma of mine. This grandma who knew how to print letters with clip art. Trips to Palmer Place glamorised her even more in my mind. Marble and bar fridges and wine cellars and spa baths and manicured gardens, Bolly and Molly and those tall, slender statuettes. No doubt most people here know the ones I'm talking about. This was all so cosmopolitan and fresh to me, and if anything, it only served to intensify the air of mystery surrounding her. It was only as I grew older that I got to interact with her more directly, and gradually I got to know the cheeky and personable individual behind my childhood imaginings. In teenagehood, she guided me through all the traps for young players in canasta. I didn't know bridge. She sat with me for laps around North Adelaide on my L plates while reassuring me that she felt perfectly safe, if only because, according to her report, I could never be as lead-footed as my Aunt Penny. She fried me up bacon and eggs every morning for a week while I studied for exams. They got progressively better over the week, and on the 4th day, she wore a beaming grin as she triumphantly announced to me that she'd tamed the wild beast that was our overexcited hot plate. I've heard many times that Grandma was supposed to have said of herself that she had no sense of humour. Which I can attest to that. Mum often used to say to me, was that a joke? Whatever motive she may have had for saying that, this was not my experience of her. One of my most vivid impressions of her is that of her raising her tone an octave or two and assuming a cutesy sing-song effect to just say something a little bit naughty. My daughter Acacia now does the exact same thing in the exact same way. And each time she does, which is often, I think of my dear Grandma Zena, dignified yet cheeky, sophisticated yet welcoming, glamorous yet generous. These are the ways that I will remember her. these are the things that I can also see in the photos of her from before I was born and from her latter years. I'll remember this. I will remember her driving me out to the Burnside pool and putting everyone else within 30 years of her age to shame with an energetic freestyle. I hope when those years eventually come for me, I'll remember her energy and vibrancy. Farewell, Grandma. You are much loved by myself, Sao Xuan, which is Geordie's wife, Sage and Acacia, who are 5 and 4, and the great grandchildren. I'll just have a couple of others.
So Anne's turn.
Yes,
We
Annie
had
up
Joe.
next.
Yes. So
Come on,
I think
Annie,
Anne
up
should
here.
go
I'm drinking soda water.
Anne has been, you need to clap Anne, she's been so well behaved until she's given a speech.
Soda water.
And Annie's going to speak to the early part of Mum's life, particularly the bits, and we were just saying the other day when we were going through the family photos, I guess it's just part of the times we're living in, but Anne is one of the people that knows some of the people in the old photos that no one else is going to know. So she's been really fantastic, and with her and Brett put quite a lot into the photo montage for
I
us.
thought, do you want the montage as you're speaking of that section, or do you
I
want
thought the montage would be playing all
Yes.
the
Yeah,
time.
come and stand there and
so
I'll move
we
over
need
here.
to log back into your, excuse the, I did up the slideshow, but my technical knowledge is, so Sophia and Tom have helped put it onto the television for us, so it's on Sophia's laptop now, so.
Do you want maybe the volume muted?
Yes, so, yeah.
You could probably start, Annie, the kids will get it.
Okay, I'll start because it looks as if it might take a while. Anyway, welcome, family and friends. Today we remember Zena, my younger sister. We were born only 14 months apart. And there you are, that's us with Mum and Dad. And we grew up together in London during the war. We always shared a bedroom, and although we were very different, myself, the frivolous one, mainly interested in having a good time and boys, while Z, and I hesitate to call her this diminutive, as she told me latterly that it made her sound like a dog. She was the studious one who listened. Zena, myself, and Joe, then 10 years old, came to Australia in June 1960 with our mother as 10-pound poms. Dad had arrived a few months earlier to work as an engineer at the new Port Augusta power station. Zena was taken out of high school in London near the end of the UK school year. She then had to go to Port Augusta High School, mid-year in Australia, to complete her education. This meant her last year at school lasted for 2 years. She made her mark there the following year as head girl. During an opening of a new wing by the Premier of South Australia, when Zena was making a speech, the local boys set off a bomb in the toilet. Our sister Karen was born around this time. This has nothing to do with the bomb, in case you didn't know. Zena then went to Adelaide Teachers College. I was nursing at the RAH. Again, we spent time together. She slept at the nurse's home on occasions, and we looked quite alike. I remember her amusement when one time on a toilet trip, the home sister greeted her as Nurse Greer, our surname. She met Brymore at Teachers College. We then yet again followed each other by becoming pregnant. Mine not to Brymore, of course. Zena and Brymore and Richard then went to live in Wyalla, where the twins, Penny and Pippa, were born. Following this, the family then went to live at St Peter's College, Brymore's old school, where he was housemaster at the prep boarding school, living on the grounds. a delight for my family as we often visited from Gawler. Zena learned to play bridge from a book whilst there. I have such happy memories of our early lives together, shared holidays, many great family times. My first trip back to England was to see them when they did a year's exchange at a private school there. Driving around the old Dart, singing My Old Man's a Dustman, Penny's nodding away there, through the bocage, or high hedges, of the green countryside where we grew up. Zena and I had many holidays together. I only managed to climb Uluru, did I say?
You did, yep.
When we called it Ayers Rock, with her encouragement. We crashed a new car on Coles Bay Road in Tasmania, cruised the Mediterranean, lovely memories. Zena was coming to work in Saudi Arabia when I went there, but then she met Robert, now Rosie, and the rest is history. Our sister Josephine, can't be here today, but Richard read her message from her. She has the dreaded COVID and is very unwell. Karen, the Australian edition, there she is. The Australian edition of the Greer sisters, who now lives in Queensland, is here. So we're the representatives. I believe we live on in people's memories. A day never goes by when I don't think of Mum and Dad and my grandson William. Now Zena joins that illustrious group. Dear Zena, she didn't drink much alcohol. However, I see her smile as we raise a glass to her. Oh, Zena.
Well done.
Thanks, Sandy.
Well, that filled in her early life for you.
And I'd also like to thank Rosie's girls, Steph and Helen, for coming over and being here with us. And Helen's partner, Sean, has sent a telegram as well, which I'm going to read now. Telegram, yeah. Well, it was a text message I put into Facebook. Hi, for those who don't know me, I'm Sean, Helen's partner, and in addition to the Jones/Martin clan for around 1999, brackets, vintage. In those early days, I knew Zena as a woman who could swim phenomenal laps of a pool daily with what I viewed as very little muscle mass. She was amazing. As a big bloke and a strong surfer, I was always in awe. It was like breaking a leg rope at Three Bears and swimming to Yallingup. Google it, no mean feat. She seemed to approach life with a vigour that was quite extraordinary. And for me, she was a marvel, and that is how I shall remember her. With love, Sean. Thanks, so. All right, well, I'm waiting there.
Play it again.
My younger son, Charlton, lives in Shanghai, and he sent us a message in the very early hours of the morning, and I'll read that. They were tennis mates, actually. Charlton's a great tennis aficionado, like Mum was. Grandma Zena to me has been a beacon of warmth and positivity from ever since I was a very little boy. She just had a way of being that I feel put everyone around her at ease, and also the ability to effortlessly take the edge off any tense or awkward situations that would occasionally crop up when all the relatives would get together. I'm not sure about the others, but when talking to Grandma one-on-one, she also had a way of making you feel valued and special, like you were getting the inside scoop on her life. I particularly enjoyed chatting, just the two of us, on car trips, and that was when she'd share a lot of interesting details with me. As many have noted, Zena had a great ability to bond with kids. When I was little, I absolutely looked forward to going to Palmer Place. I enjoyed our interactions which were never those stiff kind of adult-child conversations about whether I was enjoying school, but always had an element of adventure and imagination, whether it be about finding goldfish in the pond out the back, or teaching me some early cat psychology and how to make Molly, the shyer of the two, warm to me. As I entered my early teenager years, our conversation gravitated more towards cooking. We'd discuss recipes and ingredients, and I also received some great culinary presents to help me on that journey. In that regard, Grandma's presents were always items or experiences of great quality. Dad would affectionately say she'd picked the most expensive thing off the rack, but I think in reality she had fantastic taste developed through her keen observation. Over the years, there have been so many amazing times spent with Grandma, many of them over the Christmas break, whether it be at Victor Harbour, the River Murray, Cairns, the Barossa, or in Adelaide. As Jamie so nicely put it, these will forever be the beautiful memories of time spent in her presence. I particularly treasured our trip to the Australian Open with Anne and Will, and the few weeks I spent in Adelaide during my undergrad prior to exam period, where I got to spend some more laid-back time with her cooking, watching TV and sitting on the porch chatting. I really miss Grandma dearly. My South Australia visits won't be the same without her there. Whilst it's hard to say goodbye, I'm so happy that she was able to live life authentically and to the fullest, saying and doing as she pleased. Finally, I'm sad I cannot be with you to all to join in the celebration of Zena's life, but I've really enjoyed looking at the photo montage, seeing how much she meant to you all as well. Much love, Charlton and his wife Leanne.
Yes?
You first or Rosie first?
Rosie, do you want to go
Do you
first?
want to go next, Rosie? You good to go? All right, Hippie.
All right. Now, unlike the others, mine are messy notes because I was doing the video montage, so bear with me. All right, so I'm speaking on behalf of Penny and myself. Our mum, Zena, was the centre of our home, and she created for us a lot of traditions. I only realise this now as an adult, you know, how lucky we were to have the home life that she created. And everybody was welcome to come to that. We used to have, Dad was a boarding house master, and we would have, you know, boarding house, the young ones who would come in and do a year and help in the boarding house, they'd be at dinner at our place. Tracy lived with us for a while, Karen lived with us for a while, Susie Akers lived with us for a while. When we went on holidays, there was always, Richard had a friend, you know, our friends were always welcome. And Mum wouldn't mind if we soaped up the bathroom floor and slid up and down the floor. She would, you know, just want us to enjoy and have fun. As I said, she created a lot of traditions in our family. So many of us would know the gingerbread men. That was I think all generations have been brought up on making gingerbread men and decorating them. We used to give them to our teachers at the end of the year, and we still do it now as a Christmas tradition. We used to have Sunday roast every Sunday. She would get up and cook the roast, and for the first probably I think 14 years of our lives, and we lived at St. Peter's, she would get up on Christmas morning at 4 a.m, put the turkey on, do the full turkey dinner in the lean-to at the back, no air conditioning, often 40 degrees, but Mum would have it all ready to go. And I only realise now, as I've become a fan of the Great British Bake Off and I attempt some of the things that Mum did so effortlessly, you know, what a very good cook that she was. But she did, I think Mum's way of showing her love was to do things. Everybody who knows her knows how active that she was. I can think of many occasions, I know for us when we were little, Penny was talking about this the other day, you know, on the cold mornings, one would get up early, go and put it was a kerosene heater on downstairs, put our school clothes out so that, you know, we'd be warm, we'd come down and get ready for school. She put, because I don't like wool against my skin and we had to wear wool jumpers, she put lining in the sleeves of my jumpers, you know. She, you know, I have lots of fond memories, you know, the electric blankets would go on the bed before we went up to bed. So many memories of Mum taking care of us. As an older person, my first year of university, I was living with Mum, and this is back in the day when there were not computers, so, well, there were, but not for the average everyday person. So I was writing, you know, one of my essays, and as usual, I was late. always late. So I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, you know, Mum comes in, I'm like, Mum, I have to get it typed up. And my typing was, you know, but Mum was a very good typist. So she sat, even though she had work the next day, she typed it all up for me so that I could get it in on the deadline, you know, before 9 a.m. that next morning. That was my mum. And she'd never, you know, complain about it. She'd just do it, basically. I also remember many times when, throughout her life, but particularly I think when she was at Palmer Place, you know, I'd come over and she'd be making something, you know, all of our lives, whether it was the Florentines to go to bridge, or, you know, she'd be up at, you know, finish work up at 10 o'clock at night making a cake, and I'm like, why are you making a cake? And she'd say, oh, one of the girls at work has a birthday tomorrow, so, you know, I want to, said you could buy one. No, I'm going to make a cake. You know, she was always very concerned that people felt that they, you know, that's how she showed her love. And she had a list. She used to have, we called it the birthday cupboard. She had a drawers with, you know, presents and cards, and she had a list with everybody's birthday down. And I have never managed, and never will manage, to emulate, you know, how good Mum was at remembering everybody's special occasions and birthdays and all of those things. Amazing, that's right. Never to be repeated, I think, certainly not by me. I also remember when we were young, we had these amazing birthdays, and all our friends wanted to come to our birthdays because they were very special. So we might, you can imagine, you know, pre-teenage and teenage girls, as we went to a girls' school, you know, there might be 20 of them all sleeping on the floor in our house, and I decided we were going to have this special birthday, and we had to have a fortune teller. So she got Susie Ackhurst, who was living with us at the time, to dress up, go out in a tent. She told her information, people went out. She had amazing games, you know, the chocolate games, all these sort of things. Nothing was too much trouble. Another year, I've many photos going through them where I wanted to be the Easter Bunny. So Mum made me an Easter Bunny costume, full ears. You know, this is before, now you can go and buy them and you see lots of kids running around in their costumes. Mum made mine, full ears, everything, paws, you name it, I had it. And another party, and I wanted to be Queen Elizabeth, so she made me a Queen Elizabeth costume. My husband Paul is wearing the Sydney Swans scarf that Mum knitted for Paul, because, you know, she wasn't a Swan supporter, but he was, so she knitted that for him, and that was true love. Yes, true love. I also remember someone mentioned about letters. I went to Japan as an exchange student in '87, following our family tradition, and Mum would send me an aerogram or a message every, you know, handwritten every week. And it was like sitting with her, because it was, you know, Mum would always say, I'm not very creative, but it was like being in her kitchen and sitting with her. It would, you know, when the crows started up, you know, there was talk about them, there was talk about bridge, there was talk about, you know, what was happening with people, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. And being Mum, it was a duty, so she would do it every week. She was the only person, every single week I would get a letter from home from Mum. Pre-computers this is for you young ones. So that was great dedication, because I know she hated writing, but she did it for me. So the other thing I think about Mum, and people have mentioned this, she really, you know, took on life. I would call her a go-getter, and, you know, I certainly admire that very much about her. One of our earliest memories, and we couldn't find the photo, although I know it's there, is Mum playing netball. And we would sit, she'd put us on the side when we were little girls, and we would watch her play netball. Later on, when we were playing netball, she was our coach. So, you know, and as very little girls, and you might see some of the photos there, she would take us out on adventures. And I have memories of, you know, getting on the bus or getting on the train and going somewhere special, and she just had a way of making all those things special. And you'll see her with all the kids, she did that. She wanted, you know, all the kids of our family to have all the opportunities. So, you know, she'd take us to, you know, she took me, because, you know, I like ballet, we go to the ballet, You know, she took horse riding, you know, whatever she thought, she would make sure we have those opportunities. And she lived her life like that. She'd try anything, basically. You know, as netball, she was fantastic at that. As Jo said, anything, cooking. I remember when pizza was really new, back in the 70s this is, and Mum made her own pizza dough and watch it rise and do all those things. She'd just try anything. She made us Ugg boots. She decided, you know, why would you, this was before they were sort of readily available, and she decided, no, we were all swimming then, so we all had to wear Ugg boots. So she made the long ones, they had braid up the side, they had tassel, you name it. So that was Mum. She could put her hand to anything and do anything. There are also, she was, as I said, so hospitable and welcoming. And then there were many of the maxims that us younger ones sort of learned from her. And for many years she was like my conscience, I would say. You know, I'd think, what would Mum do? You know, one of the maxims being, you know, if you give something, say, you know, you loan someone money or you give someone something, do it and don't expect it back, because, you know, and that's a great maxim to live by, I think. She always said, buy good clothes. I was talking to Tracy about this because, you know, a lot of people stayed with us when they first started work, and she said to all of them, buy a good, you know, good clothes, good suit, and look after them. It'll never do you wrong, those sort of things. But also just that maximum of, you know, she was sort of a bit of a fatalist. She would say, well, you know, if it's going to be, it's going to be, but I'm going to do things, and that's what she did throughout her life. And also another big one, those of you who work with her or did organise things with her would know, she always did things to the best of her ability, and she always said to us, you know, if you do a job, it doesn't matter what they do, it's, you know, you do it to the best of your ability and be proud of what you do. As someone was saying, she had a very cheeky and mischievous side, and I remember swimming with her, because she'd always encouraged me to go swimming, of course. We used to say, you know, in our family, if there's a problem, go for a swim. That's sort of, you know, that was one of Mum's things as well. Got a problem? Swim it out. Go for a swim. Nothing that can't be cured.
Or a walk with Christine.
Or a walk.
Or a walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, we stopped going on walks. When we were very young, we used to go down to Moonta Bay most holidays. We were very lucky we'd go, because Dad was a teacher, we'd go away for holidays. Anne would often come with us. And we would play cards, we played lots of games, and Mum would go on long walks. But we learned very quickly not to go on walks with Mum, because once she went out on what was supposed to be a 2-3 hour walk,
7 kilometres, I can tell you.
and it lasted all day, and this is pre-mobile phones. They got cut off by the sea because it was on and they had to climb the cliffs, and we were sort of like, where have they gone? So we learned after that, I'd only ask, tell me exactly how long it's going to be, what's the end, what's the beginning. Certainly none of us children really, we're really into walking. So you got Jo and Anne and I think Karen went on walks, but the rest of us were like, thank you very much.
Got Rosie walking.
And Rosie, got Rosie walking. That's saying something. Yeah, so she had a cheeky, mischievous side, as those of you who knew her would know. And you'll see that in some of the photos, going through them, you'll see that. But she'd always, you know, say that she wasn't, but she was a lot of fun. She was very, I think one of the things I learned most from her is to be a good person. To be responsible, thank you.
The sisters.
So, to be responsible, to do lots of things, take the opportunities offered to you, do your best, have fun, thank you. I bought tissues, I said we've got to have packets of tissues. You know, have fun, do your best, and care about people and show them that you love them. So, thank you.
Great speech. Well done.
I did well till the end.
I really wanted to take the opportunity to read again to you a poem I read this morning, at the interment,
Rosie, you have to speak out. I can't hear.
and I will speak up. And picking up from what Pippa, just a few snapshots of Zena's life. I have a memory of a long, unvarnished, unmade road with Zena and I walking down the road arm in arm, and always optimistic and always good.
Yes.
But then Zena was, her main value to me was her energy. She was an energetic woman. She was amazing. And I was reminded, I came into our house in Encounter Bay and found her painting the walls furiously with roller brush. And I was reminded of the story when Brimore went to visit her.
First time meeting.
The first time.
First time Brimore met Zena, he opened the door
Met Gladys.
and there was Pom,
Gladys.
Zena's mother, in a nutty with a flowered house shower cap on her head and nothing else, painting the ceiling. Oh, she's just downstairs, she's waiting for you.
True story.
I can remember, we used to go gardening together in Encounter Bay, and you know she would garden, and garden, and garden, and the clouds would build up, and the rain would start to fall, and it would start raining furiously, and I'd say, I'm not dealing more with this, I'm going inside, and I'm going to get the fire lit and warm the place up. And I remember getting the fire lit and I could see this figure that sort of shot across the front of the windows, rain spattered head with the hair down the eyes, and soaked to death, and still working in the garden even though it was raining. She had this amazing energy, kept me going. And these are little snapshots that come to mind when you reflect on your long-term relationship with somebody. Anyhow, be that as it may, I wanted to say this morning, and I didn't say it very well perhaps, but in 1944, she was her mother. She was in her mother. She was the baby, evacuated from London to Shepton Mallet in Somerset to escape the bombs, and then eventually finds a way halfway around the world to finally be laid to rest in Adelaide, which is a long way from Shepton Mallet. And if I may, I can inflict on you again, I'm sorry to bore you, but I will inflict on you again this poem by Rupert Brooke. If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by the sons of home. And think, this heart, all evil shed away, a pulse in the eternal mind no less, gives somewhere back the thoughts by England given, her sights and sounds, dreams happy as her day, and laughter learnt of friends and gentleness in the hearts at peace under an English heaven. And that was Zena.
Thanks, Rosie. We could spend a long time going through the montage. I know everyone's eager to have some food and some drink, and I would just encourage everybody to spend some time reminiscing on Zena. A really, really good way to do this whole process is to speak about the person, which is what we wanted to do today. And I'm so thankful that you've all been here for that, and that you've allowed us to indulge those who some of the pages that have been there for a long time in the book, and perhaps our little excerpts to indulge us. But I know that you all have your particular story of that time. So yes, grab yourself some food, grab yourself something to drink, enjoy, and feel free to chat about Zena. And Rosie, what have I forgotten, sweetie? Oh yes, and we have some little, we're using these at the memorial today, some little memento stones, and we just invited people today just to hold one in their hand and actually have a memory and a thought about Mum, about Zena, and take that away with you.
And you're also welcome to take...
Yes, and one of our little cards of the Queen of Hearts.
Those who went to the previous, so yes, Mum, our Queen of Hearts. So if you want to take those with you as well, you're very welcome.
Somebody wrote on the montage, Queen of the Kids.
Queen of the Kids.
Was that?
Yes, indeed.
I was just going to say the Queen of Hearts will be my bookmark.
Yeah, so a lovely thing, a bookmark if you would. They're on that table there, the stones are there with them.
Not
with
chocolates, yes.
Mum's
We
Art
thought we were a
Deco
bit
Zena.
worried. No chocolates. So stones to take home with you and the cards. Yes.
Soph did a beautiful job of putting the Zs on.
Thank you,
So
Soph.
thank you very much for that. And to everyone who's helped put everything together today, our sincerest thanks. And if you get a chance, have a look through the montage.
And there's photos, because I actually did get more. We only found a lot of the photos yesterday, so I did my best to put them up. But there are more photos over there that didn't get to go into the montage. But you're welcome. We'll just have it on loop, and if you want to have a look, you're very welcome to, or have a look at the photos too, and chat and remember Zena.
Yeah. Thanks very much, everybody. As Mum would have said, we've spent time on this, get into it. Thank you, everybody.